Hey everybody, it's me Ashish, and before we begin, I just want to give a quick thank you to everybody listening, watching, and supporting the podcast. It means the world to us, and we're so appreciative. I just want to let you guys know that you guys can always ask us questions, give us segment ideas, and keep up with the fun, all at ashishandfriends.com. We're on Twitter at ashishandpals, we're on Instagram at ashishandfriends, and hey, we're even on Facebook, facebook.com/ashishandfriendspod. If you're watching this video, please go ahead and give it a like and subscribe to the channel. All that following and liking and subscribing will help us grow and keep going, so we appreciate it so much. And once again, thank you, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Yes, welcome to another great episode of the Ashish and Friends podcast. As always, I'm your host Ashish, and you can catch me on Instagram and on Twitter at AshishErie. And right here, I'm joined by my friend, a longtime friend here. We got Ryan in the house today. We have a special episode today. Real quickly, want to wish you a happy Thanksgiving, or we wish you had a great Thanksgiving if you're listening to this afterwards. But we're just throwing out this bonus episode, and we're just going to be talking about the Mavericks today. You know, we're big fans. We're the only Mavs fans on the podcast, but we really love them. Obviously, the draft just happened last week. The free agency had started last Friday as well. So it looks like the Mavs are just about done moving things. They might make a trade later on, but we're just going to talk about some of the movements that they did in the draft and in free agency. So going into the draft, they had picks 18 and 31, right? So they had the Warriors' number one pick in the second round. And leading up to the day, there's so much trade talk, right? They're like, oh, Mavs might try to trade for Lou Williams, right? And I was like, no, thank you, right? Like, I don't know. Like, it doesn't make sense, right? The Mavs were already the number one historic, offense last year, right? So, what you're looking at going in, I did quite a bit of research I shared with Ryan. I was like, there's a lot of 3-and-D wings we could go after. We have a lot of good guards we could, pair up with Luka and a lot of big men, right? Like when you look at the roster, Luka and KP are the two only people you're building around, right? The Mavs even said it. Anyone else is available for trade. So there's so many openings. So I was so excited. 1831, I was like, dude, there's so many good players. I'm excited for it. And, we can talk about some of the players that they had also mentioned. They're like, okay, Mavs might trade for Victor Oladipo, right? I'm like, he's on a 1-year contract. He's coming off an injury. I don't know if it makes sense to give up so many assets, right? Like, you're a fan of Jalen Brunson, correct? And we can talk about that. What do you think about Victor Oladipo for, a Brunson, 18 and 31, and probably Tim Hardaway Jr.?
I think Oladipo is skilled both at basketball and singing, and especially he complements Luka in terms of his defensive prowess. But from seeing him last season coming off that injury, it seems like he took a slight step back. And I think that in combination with the amount of assets we would probably given up, like you mentioned, 1831, Brunson, and maybe another piece or two, I think would have been unnecessary for someone that may leave after 1 year too. There's a lot more risk, I think, the benefit with that trade. I was thinking that we would try to get someone more proven, and this might be something you're talking about later, but I don't think Oladipo would have been the answer. And he's a smaller, he's a good defender, but he's a smaller side. So we would still need still another 3-and-D type of player, small forward, shooting guard, bigger shooting guard type.
Yeah, exactly. I think he's 6'5", 6'6", or something, right? And I felt the same exact way. I was like, okay, we already have KP who's kind of injury prone right now. I don't add another player that's also injury prone. At least the past few seasons, Victor hasn't, been healthy. I feel like he could help the team, but why give up so many assets when he's going to be a free agent the following year, right? Like, if you really want to test him out, just get him in the following year for whatever the price is, instead of giving up assets as well. Another name that popped up was Zach LaVine from the Bulls. And like I said, the Mavs offense was already so good, right? So yeah, Zach would be awesome. It'd be fun to watch this amazing offense, but that I don't think that would help you in the long term, right? Defense wins you championships. You needed someone, you needed some bodies out there to kind of help your defensive end, not the offensive end. So I don't think that one made sense either. And I'm sure I think there's one more. Dinwiddie, I think, had been mentioned, but it just didn't make sense. So going into the draft, like I said, I shared with you some prospects. Looking at 18 and 31, I was like, hey, going in, I just want to pull a 3-and-D guy, right? And I think that there's so many, you need to get one, and then either give me a big or give me a guard, right? And I think the Mavs went above and beyond in this draft, right? Like we had 1831, we ended up getting 18, 31, and I think 36, and another like starter, okay? Because we traded Seth Curry away to the 76ers, okay? And we ended up getting back Josh Richardson and the 36th pick. And I think that move was genius, right? What did you feel when you saw that happen, Ryan?
Well, at first, I was bummed losing Seth Curry because I do like Seth Curry. But I think the trade was actually a win-win for both teams because the Sixers were trying to get some additional three-point shooting help, which is sorely lacked, which Seth Curry is one of the best in the league. But then the Mavs was clearly had an identity in what they wanted to do in their offseason was to get a stronger defensive focus, which Josh Richardson fills that role, especially in the combo guard, 6'4", 6'5" type of guy. And he still can play offense and make plays for Luka on the side, and it takes pressure off of Dorian Finney-Smith. So I think that was a win-win. We're gonna miss Seth, but I think it'll help both teams out pretty equivalently. And we also got another pick to work with.
For sure, for sure. Like you saw during the bubble, especially, like Curry was on fire, right? Like you dish it to him, he's just draining threes. His like 3-point percentage was like pretty monumental, like last year in the
40,
season. And
45%, something.
yeah, he was freaking incredible. But I really love this move because you end up getting Josh Richardson who can score, right? He's, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 6'5", 6'6". He can guard the 2 and 3, right? The 2 or the 3. He's a starter. He can play. And with the 76ers, they didn't do him too well, so his 3-point percentage went down last year. But with like Miami, he was actually like a really good 3-point shooter, right? Like not like elite, but he could do it. And he can also like go up to the rim as well. So you got someone that can play offense, and now you got a way better defender. So I think when you're comparing Curry and Richardson, yeah, you lose the 3-point like percentage and the instant like flamethrower shooter, but you get better defensively, right? So I think the drop off is more because obviously you're getting a better defender, and you still get someone that can score. It makes total sense for 76ers though, right? Like they're trying to, Ben Simmons can't shoot threes, right? So they brought in Danny Green, they brought in Seth Curry, so now they have some shooters around him, and I think that'll greatly help them. But the fact they added the 36th pick had me so excited. So let's go through this draft real quick. So we're going down to the 18th pick. Some names we were looking at was like Saddiq Bey, right? We were in love with Saddiq Bey. We're like, this is the perfect 3-and-D guy to pair with the team, and we felt so good. And you know what? He actually fell, right? He fell to 18, and we were losing our minds because we thought he'd go around, 12 to 15. But man, we were like, hey, maybe we should package 18 and 31 and move up a couple spots and get Saddiq Bey. But he ended up falling to 18, and we're like, okay, man, if they take Saddiq Bey, this is amazing. They end up not taking Saddiq Bey, and we're like, whoa, that's weird. They ended up taking Josh Green, right? And he's from Australia. He played in, I think I'd say Arizona. And
Arizona. They actually asked Jason Terry his input because he played at Arizona. Fun
yes,
fact.
yeah. He's actually the assistant coach there right now. Jason Terry is. So yeah, so he's playing the 2 guard. You got like an elite defender, right? Like this guy is a 3-and-D guy, but like a little weaker on the 3 side, but he's a really good defender who can defend, the 1, 2, 3 really well. And I'm very excited to see him paired up with Luka because I think we were talking about like a nice 3-and-D guy. He might not bring the offensive prowess you'd like, but maybe he'll grow into that, right? He's still young. He can also play make. I think that's a beautiful thing, right? Like instead of just only shooting threes or something, he can also he used to be he used to play point when Mannion was out, his other teammate that got drafted. So he can do some of that. He adds some great defense. So I ended up being excited about the pick, but I thought we were all expecting Saddiq Bey to be taken.
And I think when you have Luca in that backcourt, as well as Josh Richardson, KP, you're able to spread the ball out. So I think Josh Green, even if the 3-point percent is lower, he'll get more open looks and better shot opportunities that may help him make those threes. So I don't think at the end of the day for a basketball team like the Mavs, having a Seth Curry like 3-pointer is absolutely necessary because I think the offense will create and be spread out.
Yeah, for sure. And some of the notes I had written when I sent you them, it was just like, he's a nice 3-and-D player, right? He can score on all 3 levels, and he's an active on-ball and off-ball defender. Like that's exactly what you wanted with Luka, and I'm excited to see him how that pans out. And I think the greatest thing about this draft was like we felt good about it, and like analysts that saw the Mavs draft were like, okay, these are actually really good picks that they took. So we're working our way down to 31, and we're like, okay, man, can we please get our local dude Desmond Bane, right? Like Desmond Bane was there. We're like, okay, hopefully he makes it to 31, but we doubt it, right? Like who knows? And we're calling down. Then ding ding ding, we got an alert. There's a trade at 30. The Grizzlies jump in and they take Desmond Bane. And we're like, whoa, like we're one pick away from getting Desmond Bane, who we're so excited about. He's a local guy who went to TCU. He's, a very polished player, right? Playing 4 years in the league or in college. He knew what he was bringing to the table, and teams love that. So who did we end up taking at 31, Ryan?
Mr. Stanford himself, Mr. Terry, not Jason Terry.
No, not Jason Terry. Tyrell Terry, right, from Stanford. And people were losing their mind, right? Like if you're talking about like a Curry replacement, he is that mold, right? He's a shorter dude. He's like, I think he grew. He actually grew from like 6'1" to like 6'2", 6'3".
He's still
like,
growing, guys.
Yeah, he's still growing in his body, right? He's a really young player, but they said he's the best shooter in the draft, right? Like the guy can shoot down from anywhere. Like this guy's rangeless, right? He can shoot from anywhere. I mean, obviously he's gonna like suck on defense because he is undersized. But I feel like if you're looking for like a Curry replacement, like you've got it. And I was very excited about that.
Yeah, me too. Because at first I'm like, oh man, we lose that 3-point touch. And then I saw them draft Mr. Terry here. And I said, okay, clearly they had a plan in mind of what they were going to do. And I think, yeah, he may be undersized on defense, could be a liability. But I think if you need like an offensive punch or some 3-point advantage, I think he'll fit in for that purpose. So I think he could be a true asset, especially like as another like 3-point guard.
Yeah, and like I said, I feel like this might be a better pick 1 or 2 years down the road. I think he needs to develop. There's a lot of work to be done, but like just having that nice shot, right? If you can bring that to the NBA, as like a bench player, right? Like a Lou Williams, really, right? Like he kind of sucks on defense, but like on offense, he's gonna pour it out for you. And I'm excited to see where that happens. And so we got that at 31. I felt good about it. A lot of people had him like in the 10 to 20 range, right? Like so getting him at 31 was a blessing. And
good value pick. And also he has another Stanford buddy in Dwight Powell, so they got 2 Stanfordites.
Yeah, that's totally true. But yeah, that was amazing. So when we talk about the Mavericks, we're not usually too excited about the draft, right? Because no offense, they've been so good in the past decades. There's been more misses than hits, and they usually end up trading back or doing something bad with it. Trading back to get Shane Larkin instead of drafting the Greek Freak like they originally planned. Things like that happen when you're the Mavs front office. But 2 for 2 right now. Then you hear that they traded away Seth Curry. You got the 36th pick, right? And I was so excited. I was like, there's still so many good names on the board, right? From pick 8 to pick 40, there's like so much value, so much talent. You don't know who's going to pan out, who's going to be the best player, but like there's just so much talent. So who did we end up taking at 36? And this is one of my favorite players I'd written down at 31. Like this is a player I would look at and I'd be excited about.
Well, we took the one and only Tyler Bey in Colorado, the Buffaloes, 6'7", 6'8" forward. Great defender. It kind of reminds me of a Draymond Green type of player, which will fit in again beautifully in our roster as well as a defensive mind, and also has a decent 3-point shot as well.
Yeah, and my notes on him were like, dude, this guy can play 2 to 4 right positions on defense. He can even do like the 1, but that's just stupid, right? But like he's very athletic. He's very athletic. He's a really good defender. And I was like, dude, what do the Mavs need? They need a good defender, right? Like a big, someone that can guard the 3 and the 4. I felt like even if they matched up against like Bam Adebayo in the Miami Heat, he's someone that could guard him, right? He's an undersized big, and I feel like that'd be perfect. This guy can't shoot threes. He needs to be more consistent with it. But if he does, he can really stretch the floor. I think that's the one little fault here is he's been more of an interior player on offense, and that might change in the NBA. So if he can stretch, become like a stretch forward, shoot the three well, I feel like this is an amazing pick. And yeah, he has amazing hustle, and he's good as a spot up shooter. So I was excited about this pick. I was like, this is exactly what the Mavs need. So going into the draft, having two picks, ending up with 4 players, right? Pretty great. And okay, so that happens. I feel good about it. We got some wings, we got some guards, we got some bigs. So free agency is starting in 2 days, right? Like it was Wednesday night was the draft. Friday, free agency starts at like 5 p.m. And we didn't have a lot of, cap room to work with, right? Because THJ, Tim Hardaway Jr. did opt in. And that's okay, right? It's only $19.5 million one last year on his deal. But we were like, okay, what's gonna happen? Right? We're looking at the roster. We're like, okay, this is a pretty good team right now, right? Because think about last year. We exited in the first round against the Clippers, but I felt good about that series, right? The fact that you had Luka like limping, right? Like his ankle was jacked up, right? When we saw him get injured, we were like, maybe this is done, right? Game 3, I think it was. We're like, he might not even get to play. KP, got ejected on a stupid foul. Otherwise, they would have won that game. But the fact that you even made it that far without Jalen Brunson, without Dwight Powell, right? Like you had all these names.
Without KP for like 2 or 3 of the games as well.
Exactly. KP got injured, missed the last few games. Luka still went off, did his thing, while still like not at 100%. So like I feel like bringing this whole roster back. You only lost Seth Curry that you traded away, but you also got another starter, Josh Richardson, back. You got some nice young pieces to help Luka out, and you're bringing back Brunson's gonna be healthy, right? Powell's going to be healthy. After a couple weeks, KP is going to be able to play. They might limit him, but he's going to be healthy for the majority of the season. And I was very excited about that. So we're like, what can they do in free agency? I told you I was trying to look for another wing, and I was looking for a big, right? I wanted some big depth. There were some nice names, Millsap, Ibaka, one of those names. What did we end up doing, Ryan?
That's a great question, Ashish. Thank you for posing it. We ended up getting Uwando, who used to play for the Magic, who's a nice 6'7", 6'8" wing that's 25 years old. And then we got Willie Cauley-Stein, who was on our team, who also opted out, who we were missing during that playoffs, and that could have even made our team better. So those are 2 additional pieces that fit the check marks we were looking for. And then we re-signed Trey Burke right in the beginning as well, who was a great offensive splash actually in the playoffs and in the bubble. So I think that was a great pick.
For sure. With the guard depth not being that great, without Brunson being there, JJ had no gas left in the tank. Burke, who they picked up right before the bubble started because Will Cauley-Stein actually opted out, right? They were able to add him. He went off. He looked amazing. Getting him on a 3-year deal for $10 million, I thought was a steal, right? That's really good guard depth. Adding Willie Cauley-Stein, right? When you were in the playoffs, obviously Powell wasn't there. KP got banged up. You didn't have the depth, right? You're just throwing Kleba out there and Boban, right? Like those are your bigs, and you're like, okay, like it didn't even make sense. Having a Willie Cauley-Stein back, I think helps out so much, right? With a full, little preseason with Carlisle, with like a whole season playing with Luka and KP, I think that's gonna be amazing. Because with this team, you're looking for a big that can really, protect the paint, right? You're looking for a rim protector. You're looking for someone that can block, get rebounds, and Willie Cauley-Stein can actually finish quite well, right? Like he can get those lobs and dunk them, right? He's not like a offensively skilled player, which actually he's been working on this the past few months. He's developed a little shot, so I'm excited to see that. But just the fact you have someone that can spend like a whole new season and a lot more time and develop with the team, I think will be fun.
Like you mentioned, are interesting because I think like every one of our bigs is different. Like I think Willie Cauley-Stein is our truest big. Like when you think of a big, like a center, Willie Cauley-Stein fits that mold. And then you got Dwight Powell, which is a forward size center, but he's a smaller size who has more of an offensive game and tries to shoot 3-pointers, but that can't really guard like a Dwight Howard. And then you got Kleber, who's like an amazing defender, but has virtually not a great offensive game. But
yeah, so we saw that during the playoffs. He was guarding Kawhi Leonard a lot, right? And that affected him.
He did great for like his size and his position.
He did pretty good. Yeah. I think he was probably the best defense. Yeah, he might have been the best defensive player. I mean, defense they were doing the best they could. It still didn't work, but they did what they could, and that affected the offensive game, right? Like Kleba is someone you expect that can shoot open threes, And he's a little quicker. He's, like you mentioned, our bigs are so diverse, right? Boban's super slow. He's like a perfect Dwight
He can
Howard
finish
type.
around that rim.
Yeah, because I saw that a lot during the Lakers and Mavs series. Like whenever they took AD out and put Dwight Howard in as a backup, right?
Oh yeah.
Then they throw Boban in because you're looking for a slower guy that can't, shoot away from the rim. So yeah, they have another body. I really like Willie Cauley-Stein. I've been a big fan for quite a few years. So let's see how that works out. This Wesley Owundu dude, I have no idea about, but the fact they added another wing, right, who's like a little bit more defensive minded, I think that's great. You have another body. I feel like practice, during camp, you're fighting for spots, right? You're fighting for who's going to start, who's the second, who's the third option. So I think that's going to be fun and exciting, and it's going to be the first time for a long time since we have that, like a nice competition going on.
So when I saw that move, at first I was confused, but I'm thinking that the Mavs, because they pretty much drafted, well, they got 3 out of the 4 players in the draft night were defensive minded, and then Owondo's defensive minded. He's young. I think they're trying to develop some defensive minded players. I think Josh Green may be the one that's closest to like a starter type of player, but I think we have like a potentially a young budding defensive minded team that can bloom out of all those players we got. And I think also all those players are very versatile if they're all playing. So to put that in a starting lineup and to be able to rotate and to make those switches, to having to worry about, oh, we're gonna have this undersized guard on this or Boban on, Kawhi or whatever. That's gonna be very versatile going forward if those pieces work out.
Exactly. And I feel like we were talking about, like after last year, great offense, amazing, right? But the issue was finding so many bodies to stop a Lou Will sometimes, right? When he's going off, finding a body to stop Kawhi. Luckily Paul George was stinking it up on his own, but like, having enough bodies to just throw out there and defend, right? Like you can go through 3, 4 guys from the 2 to the 4 position, and while they're getting exhausted, you just have all these bodies to throw out there. And I think it's smart. Hopefully they can develop, a little bit of offense, whether it's a 3 or can scoring on the inside. But like, let's see what happens. I do
And then
feel
hopefully you can get Luka not as worried about the defensive side, so you can focus on the offensive game a little more. At least not be as tired because he has to guard a Kawhi or a LeBron because you don't have another defender size
yeah.
wise.
Yeah, exactly. And I think with another year under his belt, going third year, he'll get a little bit better in shape. Work on his shot a little bit more, and bringing in someone like a Brunson, right, that can play make with him, right. So you have all those duties on his own. Bringing in, like I said, Josh Green, who has those abilities. I think that'll definitely help Luka out for sure. I think just the one thing I missed was getting like a Millsap or even like a Ibaka, right? Like I even talked about later on getting like just spending a little money on Cousins or Hassan Whiteside because I just wanted like a bigger dude. I just wanted a bigger center, right? Willie Cauley-Stein has those kind of skills where he does protect the rim, but I just wanted like a big chunky type dude that could just stand there in the middle and really protect. But you know what happened? We also got dragged into this weird trade with the Pistons and the Thunder, right? We ended up, there's so many levels to this offseason, right? Like not much happened, but like it's actually really good. But we'll break it down right here. So the Thunder and the Pistons were trying to trade. The Mavs got in on it. We ended up dumping off Justin Jackson, Ryan's favorite player, and
He has the best floater game according to Rick Carlisle any player's ever seen.
and DeLon Wright, right? So I told you I'm a little bit bigger fan of DeLon Wright than a lot of Mavs fans. They like to hate on him, but I felt like the guy hustled, right? Like he could be offensive, he could play defense really well. He gets the steals, he gets the rebounds. He tried to do what he did, but it just didn't work out with the Mavs for some reason. Maybe it was just with Carlisle. It is what it is. They got rid of him. They got rid of the extra 2 years we had to pay him for, right? So I didn't mind the deal, and we also got rid of Justin Jackson. I mean, I think his contract was up at the end of the year, or we owed him like $5 million next year. But he just really didn't develop into the player we thought he could potentially be. He was like, I think, a lottery pick, 14, 15, or 16, whenever he was drafted. So we got him in the Harrison Barnes trade. We're just like, we're trying to release some cap space. Let's see what he can do. He didn't develop like we'd like. So I actually loved dumping him off. And who do we get in return? We got James Johnson. Tell us a little bit about James Johnson, Ryan.
James Johnson, he used to play for Miami, and he's played in a lot of teams. He's a power forward type player, intimidator. if you hurt Luka, you're gonna get hurt by James Johnson type of guy. That's what you get with James Johnson. He's someone you don't want to mess with. But he's also a big man, like a good power forward, very physical, a player. Also has a shot too, so he can be very versatile in that regard. Throw someone in there that fits like that power forward center place.
Yeah, like you mentioned, intimidator. He's the enforcer. Okay, no one in the league wants to mess with James Johnson. I promise you. I promise you. This is a fact. This is not just me just touting him up. Like no one wants to mess with James Johnson. Kenyon Martin actually today came out and said like James Johnson is a bad dude. No one wants to mess with him. The guy is a black belt. Okay, I think he's a secondary black belt if I'm not mistaken. This is honest. Back in I think high school or college or something. I think it was when he was in college he ended up doing like MMA fighting or something, right? And he's like 7-0. He's undefeated. I'm telling you, no one wants to mess with him. And the fact that we got him as a bodyguard for Luka, I love it. Hey, yo, Marcus Morris, if you want some action, bring it, okay? Because next time you try to like step on Luka's ankle, you're losing your whole leg, okay? Like when you see a guy with like neck tattoos, that many neck tattoos, yeah, I feel a little scary. When it's coming from Kenyon Martin, right? Kenyon Martin was a kind of like mean dude, and he was like, yo, even I wasn't messing with James Johnson, so I love it. Like you mentioned, he's been around the league for a couple of teams. He is that big intimidator guy. I think he has a good like inside game. He's also developed somewhat of an outside game too. So it's interesting to see. But like I said, just another body, another big, and I love it. And like I said, having one dude that can step up and get in people's faces for you're the face of the franchise is such a big deal, right? Like I've heard a lot of analysts talking about like the Mavericks are a little wimpy. None of the teams are scared. So I think now they got arguably the scariest dude in the league, and I love it. He's on a 1-year deal. So it made so much sense, right? When you look at Josh Richardson, it's 1 year and he has a player option, right? And he might opt out because he'd probably get more. But the fact that they ended up getting so much space going into next year, right? When you're looking at a Bradley Beal, an Oladipo, a Greek Freak, there's so many good names next summer. And the Mavs somehow got better and also ended up with more space going into the summer. And I absolutely love that.
And I like the trade too because DeLon Wright, I think, was a great player. He just didn't fit with the Mavs. And to be able to trade him and Jackson, who wasn't also fitting, opening up that roster, and get someone, James Johnson, that fits, I think was such a beautiful trade. So the two trades that Mavs made really worked out really beautifully for them.
Yeah, and it's funny because I was up on Twitter pretty late those days, and so many of the Wojs and the Shams Charanias they'd mess up the deals, right? Like we didn't know we're trying to listen to them. At some point the Mavs got Trevor Ariza, and then they're like, no, he's actually going to the Thunder. I mean, it's just really confusing. They messed up a lot this year, but it is what it is. But I really loved what the Mavs did, right? They didn't do like a very significant thing. They didn't have too much room to work with, but what they did was they got better. They added young bodies, and they added more cap space for next summer. What more could you want from the Mavs? And I'm looking forward to this team. We'll talk more about the NBA in the future weeks, and our predictions and a nice look at all the other teams. But when you look at the Mavs, I definitely think they're better than last year, right? Bringing in Brunson, bringing in Powell, bringing in Josh Richardson, adding all this wing help and all these bodies, I think is really going to help them. And I think they're going to make a nice deep run next year, right? We can talk about the other teams, another day, but I think you're at least getting to the second round and possibly the third round of the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, I think the Mavs have a lot of potential stored up there. For me, it's contingent on KP's health. If he stays healthy, that team's going to make a run. If he continues to be banged up, that could be an issue. But I do think having a Dwight Powell, having Kleber, like having some, options, even if Bey becomes a significant factor, could help in KP's absence. But I think the thing I liked about this offseason with the Mavs is they identified the problem that our backcourt defense was struggling. So how do we fix that? They fixed that problem. They drafted players, they picked up players, and they used that and also looked in the future to make sure that isn't a detriment to their future. So not only did they identify and solve their issue, they also helped their future as well. So it was just a wonderful thing.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, we're gonna get healthier bodies, and like you mentioned, I think it's just gonna come down to the health, right? If this team can stay healthy, which you can say about a lot of teams, but like especially with like a KP, but I feel like if this team,
And a Luca, for that matter, BC kicking a big up.
exactly, last year it's easy to forget, but like he did, I guess, like twisted his ankle during the season twice, right, and then in the bubble as well. And that's something to keep an eye about. Hopefully, he can stay healthy. But like I said, if you get your starter players to play like they did, maybe even take a next step, and just get more time together, just stay healthy. This team is so bright. The future's so bright, right? Like this team looks fantastic. The future's so bright. I'm just looking forward. I was like, I don't want to jump too far in the future, but next summer is gonna be so exciting, right? Like people are gonna look at this team, be like, yo, they have a good core. They have all this free space. So just looking to next year, they can sign a max player. And they can also, I think they have also like 12 million to add another player as well, right?
Oh, wow.
And when you talk about Josh Richardson, you're talking about someone you're getting their bird rights as well, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that, but I heard that you get his bird rights, so you could go above the cap to retain him, right? So like adding, even like if Greek Creek opts in and does an extension, getting a Bradley Beal, right? Luca, Bradley Beal, Josh Richardson, KP, and then your big whoever that is. I am excited about that team, right? Like this team is going to be fantastic for the future. It just depends on health, but I'm very excited about what they did. They killed it in the draft, which is, like I said, it looks like maybe it's the thing for the future now. Maybe we can look forward to Mavs drafts in the future.
Mm-hmm.
But they did a great job there. They did a great job in free agency, and I absolutely loved the past week or so, and it's been exciting. Any last words, Ryan, about what they did, and what you're looking forward to maybe this season?
I just want to see how this team comes along. I think there are some pieces that work needs to be done and see how they develop through the season. So I'm interested to see how those draft prospects look that we drafted, as well as seeing, now we got a lot of playmakers that I felt like we didn't have, especially after Brunson went down last year. But having Brunson, having Burke, having Richardson to help Luca in the playmaking as well as a healthy KP, I want to see like obviously Luca get the Dragon share of it, but getting that burden off of Luka, keeping him healthy, keeping him fresh, it's gonna be awesome to see. And then just a stronger defense.
Yeah, did you say the Dragons share?
Yeah, it's not the Lion share, it's the Dragon share.
Yeah, wow, you just coined a new phrase here,
Yeah, I
Ryan.
did.
This is a groundbreaking episode right here. If you hear anyone say dragon share, probably came from Ryan. This is amazing stuff. But you're right. He does carry the whole load on himself. I'm excited to see that. We'll break down the West and the East next week, but just excited to see this team, what they can do. And like I said, a lot of new pieces, a lot of young pieces, right? And since the season's starting so early, coming back just within a couple of months, it's starting December 22nd. The players didn't get a lot of time off. I'm excited to see the young players get a lot of minutes to start out, right? You're going to see KP slowly, come back in. So I want to see more KP. I want to see more, Tyler Bey. I want to see more Tyler Bey, minutes out there. I want to see, what these young guys offer, and then later on, we can see what they did. And real quickly, they did add a couple of other bodies. We do have a Nate Hinton from Houston, right? And he's actually like a shooting guard that can shoot pretty decently, and he's a really good defensive-minded guard. So we'll see if he gets that two-way contract I think he's on, and see what he can bring to the team as well. I didn't want to forget that. They do have two people on the Exhibit 10 contracts as well. Let's see if they become anything, but like absolutely killed it this offseason, even though it didn't seem like major moves, right? And I think they got incrementally better, and just bringing those healthy players back from last year is going to be fantastic. And I think that wraps up this amazing episode about the Mavs. We love them so much. We're looking forward to them next season. And we'll break down a little bit more basketball in the future weeks. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have any questions, if you want to talk about Mavs or whatever sports in general, hit us up and we'll be excited to talk about it. Once again, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. You're having a great time with your friends and family. Please be safe. And thank you again for listening. That wraps up this episode. And until next time, we are out. See ya.